So now we're gonna remove the iron, right? So we have the solution mixed up in here.
Yep, it's just straight up iron in there, and despite
Geon iron, right?
Yep, Geon iron. Despite the fact that that's pH neutral solution, and it shouldn't cause any kind of issues with plastics and all. When I'm putting it on, if I have the ability to avoid, like I'm not going to spray it directly on here.
Right.
And another good reason for doing this when it's wet, all your plastics trim down around the bottom. That helps dilute it a little bit.
Gotcha.
And then with it, as with many other things, we want to make sure that we're doing it in the shade, which we pretty much got going on here, on a cool surface. A little common sense with it. Spray it on, let it set for a couple minutes. We should see where it's interacting with any kind of iron deposits, metal deposits on the surface. Then we rinse it off and go to mechanical decontamination.
White is always the most fun color to do this too.
Yeah, you get the gratification of seeing everything that's pulling from the paint.
Now, this is a step that I always do, but like once I've decontaminated the car, I rarely ever see any iron again.
Right.
But I figure it can't hurt,
Yeah, we get a lot of questions from people about using iron or chemical decontamination on a coated car. And yeah, you can do that from time to time, but the reality is if you've got it coated and you've prepped everything right and you're maintaining it right, you shouldn't have much need.
Unless you live like right near a rail station or something.
Right, or possibly, up here in Ohio, you got a coated car, you drive it all winter, it's been kind of neglected during the winter. You might want to do it as part of a deeper clean come springtime.
Alrighty, here we go.
And for the most part, you just got some few spots here and there that are coming up. Nothing too crazy. But that's the great thing about this. If you look at an area and you see one or two little spots, then you come in and you hit it with iron, you're going to see 10 times the amount of spot stuff that you can't see that hasn't started to bloom yet on the surface.
So what's the purpose behind this? It's to break, because a clay disc isn't going to remove the embedded iron, right?
Right.
Or if it does, you're going to be pushing it around on the paint, right?
Right, exactly. And the fact that some of this stuff is so fine it's not going to get picked up by a clay disc or clay, or you have it in areas, around edges and body seams and in between emblems that you can't get clay into. And this will help break all that up.
Normal dwelling time, 3 to 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Spray it off. Do you do any agitation to it?
Nope.
Or?
No, if you've got your application, good enough, you shouldn't have any of that. See, you're picking up a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
Where you're normally going to, the upper surfaces around the back. That picks up most of it.
Here's what the back looks like. Let's see us. Bleeding purple. This is the best part about, and this is part of the reason why, now this isn't technically a new car, but new car prep, new cars are a lot of times worse than a car that's been washed a dozen times.
Right, yeah, you see some of them can go pretty much straight to factory to dealership without much need, but other cars spend a lot of time in lots and trucks and rail cars. And
one key is, I don't know what happens, but we don't want to let this dry.
Right.
I've never tried it, but I don't want to.
I'd probably go ahead and rinse it off, just seeing plastics are getting a little bit drier.
Now I'm going to do a little bit more thorough rinse than I did before, just to make sure I get all this junk off. Now I remember back in the day, first using a clay bar for the first time. I think it took me like 2.5 hours. We're gonna do that a little quicker today, right?
Yeah, exactly. I remember back in the days, you get a white car that's got a lot of miles on it. Yeah, you'll spend hours splaying it and trying to decontaminate the surface. Now that whole process can be done in about 15 minutes with a combination of chemical and mechanical decontamination.
All right.
All right, we got all that ready.
Step 2 done.
And now it's time for mechanical decontamination. I've got in the rinse bucket over here. We can even use that one as a spare bucket. I've got the Sonax.
So we're gonna go, what about fancy, I need some detail spray and stuff, don't I?
We have got some clay lube right here.
So what's your take on soap versus this versus?
If you're getting ready to do polishing, I don't think it makes a whole heck of a lot of difference, because no matter what you do, what kind of lube you use, what kind of process you use, you're gonna mar the surface. There's just no two ways about it. Every video I've ever done on decontamination and what I teach at the academy, if you remember, is you don't want to do mechanical decontamination unless you are polishing the vehicle afterwards.
Now, so, is this a fine, or the Sonax have different levels?
That one, I believe, is a medium level. They have for general purpose. It works fantastic for us. And just getting enough lube on the surface to add a little bit of slickness to it.
Do you circles, or does it matter?
I do straight line back and forth. I just find it's a little bit quicker. You can usually feel and hear as it's removing stuff.
4 or 5 pounds of pressure, maybe a little more?
Actually, a little bit less is typically what I'm going to be using.
Okay.
Just a little bit on there, just to feel anything being removed. And that's the nice thing about these, newer generation clay disc versus clay. If something happens, you drop it or whatever, you just rinse it out in the bucket. You do that with clay, you're throwing it away.
Right.
And then after a panel or two, I just dip the clay disc down in my rinse bucket and start back over again. Real simple.
I'm gonna do the glass.
Yep.
Everything. So now, how nitpicky are you about coming back and like rechecking the surface, like the baggy test or something like that?
I don't find that's necessary. We have
this doesn't have to be perfection, right? It's just get 98% of the dirt off. The polish will grab whatever.
Exactly.
Whatever we miss.
You're typically not going to have that much heavy stuff on it, and you're going to know that beforehand, because as you're inspecting the car, as you're washing the car, you're going to be able to feel the surface to see just how much decontamination you're going to need to do. So if I'm going into a car like that, then we'll spend a lot more time, and I may go back and check some of those surfaces.
Right.
But it's a car like this, it didn't really have any kind of crunchy feel to it. I don't really see a need to go back and inspect every last little inch.
Do you do top down like normal?
Yep.
And then what about doing this on a car that's coated? Like if you start to feel contamination build up, then you need to polish, right?
Yeah, you would need to polish. If you've coated the vehicle and you've maintained it, you shouldn't really have a buildup of crunchy stuff on there. If it's a vehicle that's been coated and you've allowed it to, or you've kind of neglected it,
right?
The only way you're going to fix that is through a mechanical decontamination, repolishing, and recoating application to it. I would rather have, in the long run, if I had a choice of a smooth surface with marring or a beautiful surface with some crunchy things here and there, I'm going to take the crunchy stuff and wait. If it's not due to be polished for another 6 months, I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah, see, I have that same take. Like, a lot of guys will have a tendency to just touch the car a little too much.
Yep.
I always err on the side of like I talked about, we were talking about this at dinner last night. Like when I go to the mountains, I just don't touch the car. I wipe the windshield down so I can see.
Right.
But that's about it.
Yeah, we definitely see that. I mean, you can imagine we get a million emails and phone calls.
How do I wipe the car down at Cars and Coffee?
Yeah, looking for advice on things, or my coated car needs decontamination. What do I do? And you just have to pose that question to the person. It's like, what's more important to you?
Right.
A smooth surface or a great looking surface? And same thing, you know, you're talking about going to Cars and Coffee or shows. I'm going to drive it there, and whatever kind of dust got on the vehicle on the way, it stays. Because
yeah, same here, yeah. And it stinks, and it's like you feel like you're the guy that should have the cleanest car because, but when you know better,
yeah. In the reality,
drive the car, enjoy it, and then wash it when you have the proper equipment to do it, right? Yeah, I have the exact same philosophy.
Yeah, I'd rather have dust and perfect paint than no dust and swirls.
So what I normally do, no, I didn't do the windshield, is I'll do this like on like a Friday afternoon.
Yep.
And then, you know, as a DIYer, then I'll blow the car off and let it dry overnight, and then come back and tape it in the morning. And then take the day Saturday and then work on polishing. And if I'm lucky, get polishing done on a Saturday. Well, usually that spills over into Sunday.
That's the way I used to do it when I started this business out of my house, and I would do one car a weekend. Friday evening would be prep. It would be washing, it would be decontamination, all that fun stuff. And then Saturday morning, I can get up, go out there, the car's dry, I'm not worrying about tape not sticking, get it all taped up and start with the polishing process.
Are you worried about doing multiple directions?
Given the amount of sanding marks we saw on that hood, I wouldn't worry about that in the least bit. We're going to be doing some compounding up there. Normally I try to keep it going just one direction as much as I possibly can, because then it's easier to see when you're going to inspect it afterwards what kind of marring you added during the decontamination process and what's just there in the surface.
What about the talk of straight line scratches are easier to get out than circular?
I don't find that to be the case. It all depends on how deep it is. It's not the direction of it that makes any difference.
I'm actually really digging that this is a sticker rather than a badge.
Yep.
I wonder what it looks like without it on there. I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually take it off.
One way to find out. Dan loves disassembly.
I can't believe I'm about to put plastic on this thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I felt that way before, because I only wanted perfect looking paint all the time. Then I realized just how many rock chips it gets.
Yeah.
And now the way I look at it, I wouldn't have a car without at least the full front end wrapped on it.
Well, here's my goal. Is just get a new car every 6 months.
Yeah.
And then
That's a good goal.
But then why even polish it, right? Just screw it. That must be a great existence to not care about any of this stuff,
We've got some customers that go through cars really quickly. Everything is polished to absolute perfection. Most of them are never driven. They still have all of the original stickers on them. It just means the next guy is going to get one heck of a nice car. Yeah, I'm not knocking that in the least bit. I'm envious to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I get a nice car, I got to drive it.
Now, top to bottom really shouldn't matter because the car's clean.
Yeah, no.
For those of you who are about to start yelling at me, we're going to pull those off. All right, Dan. These suckers are gone. The yellow wrap.
Factory yellow. Yeah, it really shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like right now, the sunshine came over the building and we're in the sun a little bit. And if that happens to people that are out there, what I recommend is just rinsing it off during that claying process a little bit more often. Not that the clay lube is going to hurt anything, but it starts, streaking and smearing and gives you a little bit more work to do during that prep stage.
I'm working as fast as I can.
Fortunately, this isn't a volume shop, so we're not expecting you to be able to do 5 of these in an hour.
I'm taking my own personal volume down to 2 from 5, or 3 from 5.
And after we're done with this process, we'll just do a simple rinse. In most cases that will suffice. Let's say this was a car that just had a lot of stuff on it that we're getting off. I might refoam it, then rinse it at that point to help draw anything more off of the surface before we go inside for drying. But there wasn't a whole lot of contamination, so just a basic rinse will suffice.
Yeah, see, to get the machine out and mess with this, it doesn't save. In fact, it takes more time.
Yeah, it definitely takes more time.
Suits my boring personality. This episode series is going to be like 40 episodes. It's going to be great. See, Todd, you have people edit for you. When I edit myself,
yeah.
I think that every word I say is gold, so I can't bring myself to edit any of it out. That's why my videos are 45 minutes long.
Yeah, more power to you for doing that. It's a lot of effort.
Ah, there's a scratch. It's ruined.
Time to sell it.
It's a good thing I'm on the list for the new GT3 RS. I will be by the time this video's out. I got to get on the front of the wave. All right, so we'll rinse it. So how much do you think this actually removes of the whatever wax? Like that process we did, is that going to remove?
It depends on what's on there. There could be some stuff on there that, you know, you get vast majority of it off, or we've seen stuff on cars, silicone base or whatever, that barely touches it, and then we have to go in with a body shop solvent to remove it at that point.
This is deionized water anyway, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about the sun. All right, clean.
All cleaned up, ready to go.
All right, so we did normal wash, right?
Yep.
Geon bathe, whatever soap you use, right?
Yep.
Could be Adams, could be Chemical Guys, whatever you use.
Right.
But you don't want something with any glossing.
Gloss enhancers or waxes,
which
or any of
I
that
don't think you
stuff.
really want anyway,
Right.
in most cases. But
Right.
So regular soap, you know, with a 2-bucket method.
Yep.
Taking maybe less care than we normally would. I mean, I don't see why you would want to wash from bottom up to scratch the paint. Like, we don't want to scratch it if we can help it, but or add any more scratches, but less care than normal. Then we rinsed it, right? Then iron.
Yeah, chemical decontamination.
Did an iron out or iron X or iron removal, whatever you want to call it. So chemically decontaminate it. And that, I think, you probably need to be most careful with sun.
Yes.
You want to be careful with black plastics and things like that. I don't think you need to obsess over it, but be careful, right?
Yep.
And then we rinsed it, and then we clayed it.
Yep.
What do you call that again? Mechanically?
Yeah, mechanical decontamination.
So we chemically decontaminate. I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
We chemically decontaminate, then we mechanically decontaminate.
Yeah.
With the clay disc, you could use a clay bar, you could use a machine, you could use whatever you want, but the key is to get the surface so that it's smooth and decontaminated. Rinse it again. We could foam it if the car was really gnarly. You could foam it again. Maybe even get the bucket out if you really felt necessary. But I think on this car it's probably overkill. I mean, the thing has 700 miles on it. And then now we dry it. Right?
Yep. Dry it and then go into inspection and kind of come up with a plan of attack for polishing.
So that's the decon step. Oh, this is gold, people. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.
Dialed in.